we're going to do a little bit more with equations, and then we are going to start a section on eliminating decimals and clearing fractions. So when we think about our order of operations, when we are simplifying, if you think about, we work with grouping symbols first, and then we do the exponents. We do the grouping symbols, the exponents, and then we simplify the multiplication and the division in order from left to right, and then we do the adding and subtraction in order from left to right. When you are solving an equation, you are working backward to find what that missing variable value is. So we actually have to start here. We are going to undo the adding and subtracting, and then we are going to go back to do the multiplication and division. So let's take a look at this first problem here. We have 15 minus 2 parentheses 3 minus 2x is 46. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean this up a little bit, and I'm going to distribute that negative 2. So I'm going to write the 15, and negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, and negative 2 times negative 2x is 4x equals 46. Now if you take a look at everything that's on that left-hand side, you'll notice that you can combine these. So let's just tighten this up a little bit, make it a little bit neater. 15 minus 6 is 9, so we have 9 plus 4x equals 46. And then go ahead and subtract 9. Okay. So you're going to get 4x equals 37. Divide by 4. X equals 37 over 4. Probably should have changed that to make that 45, so it would have been a little bit of a nicer problem and without these fractions, but that's okay. All right, there's one problem. Let's take a look at the one that's over to the right. Negative 4x plus 3x is 2. So this one's a little bit easier. Why don't we just combine these, and you would get negative 1x equals 2. But remember, we want to solve for x, not negative 1x. So let's go ahead and divide by negative 1, and you'll have x equals negative 2. So what we're doing with the problems on this page is we're looking to combine any of our like terms before we start to simplify. So why don't you work on these 4, pause the video, and let's see how you do. I'm going to keep working. So we have 5y minus y is going to give you 4y minus 13. And now we are going to add 13 to both sides. We have 20 equals 4y. Divide both sides by 4. 5 equals y. In this problem over here, we have negative 5x plus 2x. So we have negative 2 equals negative 3x plus 10. Let's go ahead and subtract 10 from both sides. Negative 12 equals negative 3x. Divide both sides by negative 3. And we have 4 equals x. Now at the bottom, I'm going to distribute the negative 4. So we have negative 8x plus 20. Subtract 20 from both sides. We have 72 equals negative 8x. Divide both sides by negative 8, and you have negative 9 equals x. On this last one here, I am going to distribute that negative and make it a negative 7 plus 2x plus 7 equals negative 7. So this negative here means to take the opposite of 7 and the opposite of negative 2x. So now if I notice I have negative 7 plus 7, that'll cancel each other out. So we have 2x equals negative 7. Divide both sides by 2, and x equals negative 7 halves. So that was a review lesson. Now we're going to look at clearing the denominator and the decimal. So sometimes people don't like to deal with fractions. So there's ways that we can clear out the fraction by clearing out the denominator. So I want you to think, how can we eliminate the denominator? Well, one of the things we can do is we can multiply everything on both sides by the common denominator of 3 and 5, which would be 15. So if we multiplied everything by 15, I'm going to do this out the long way just to show you what's actually happening. So thinking about this as 15 over 1 times 2/3. So you would get 30 over 3y minus 15 times 2 is 30. 1 times 5 is 5. And 15 times 15 is 225. Now, if you notice, we can simplify. 30 divided by 3 is 10y. 30 divided by 5 is 6, equals 225. Now I want you to go back up to the original problem right here, and you'll see the 10y is what we simplified to. If you just take this 3 down here and simplify it with the 15, you'd end up with a 5. And 5 times 2 gives you that 10. And then if you did the same thing over here, 5 and 15, you'd end up with a 3. And 3 times 2 is 6. If you're not comfortable with the cross-canceling, then you can go ahead and just multiply it out as fractions and then simplify. It will always simplify if you have the correct common denominator and if you do your math correctly. So let's take a look at adding 6 to both sides. And we have 10y equals 231. Divide both sides by 10, and you have y equals 23 and 1/10. 3/4 x plus 5 is 14 is the next problem. I am going to multiply everything by 4, because that will clear this denominator. We end up with, I'll just show you how I'm getting this. And then 14 times 4 is 56. So you can see here, 12 divided by 4 is 3x, which if you had just simplified that there, you would end up with a 3x. 3x plus 20 is 56. Subtract 20 from both sides. 3x is 36. And then you get x is 12. It's a little crammed in, I apologize. 1/4 x minus 1/2 is 3/4. If we went and multiplied by the least common multiple of 4 and 2 would be 4. And so we have x minus, distributing will be 4 divided by 2 is 2, is 3. These would simplify out. Add 2 to both sides, and x equals 5. So that's how you clear the denominator. Sometimes we call it death to fractions. So how can we turn the decimals into whole numbers so we don't have to work with the decimals if we're more comfortable working with these whole numbers? So if you take a look at this problem, we have 1/10 x minus 1 equals 65 hundredths. So what we're going to do is we're always going to be looking at the decimal that has the most place values. So in this case, it's 65 hundredths. So taking a look at 65 hundredths, we have to make this a 65. If you make it a 65, the decimal needs to move twice, which means multiply by 100. So you multiply both sides by 100, which means we're moving the decimal point twice. So this is 10x minus 100 equals 65. Add 100 to both sides, and we have 10x equals 165. Divide both sides by 10, and you have x equals 16 5/10. On the one that's below, we have 1 2/10 n plus 68 hundredths equals 5. We have another one with 2 place values here. So we're going to multiply everything by 100. So this will be 120n plus 68 equals 500. So we have 500 minus 68 is 432. And then if you divide everything by 120, you'll have n equals 3 6/10. And go ahead and use a calculator for that. Let's take a look at this practice problem here. We have negative 7 hundredths p minus 6/10 equals 5. So if you notice, we have 2 place values here, which means if we multiply everything by 100, then we can clear that decimal. So we're going to end up with negative 7p minus, moving this twice, 60 equals 500. Let's add 60 to both sides. We have negative 7p equals 560. If you divide by negative 7, you have p is negative 80. Okay, so we're going to multiply everything by 1,000. So we end up with 1037x plus 20x, as you're going 1, 2, 3, got 0, plus 25,000 equals 30,285. So now I'm going to combine these, and I get 1057x plus 25,000 equals 30,285. Subtract 25,000 from both sides. You get 1057x equals 5285, because we did this. Okay, now we're going to divide by 1057, and we get 5. So this is our lesson on multi-step equations, clearing the denominator, or death to fractions, and clearing decimals. We'll have some practice problems posted on the website.